Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. It's a strange thing when you think about it. All days are not created equal, but all days have the same amount of time. The day before Pearl Harbor was the same 24 hours as the day of Pearl Harbor. The day before Kennedy was assassinated, a regular day, same amount of time. The day before 9/11, a regular day. January 5th, 2021, same amount of time as January 6th, 2021. And today is one of those days that should go down in history as a profound moment in the history of America and the degradation of the Republican Party. You know, for decades, the Republican Party was really built on two pillars. One was the party of strength in foreign affairs, the party that opposed the Soviet Union, the party that broke uh, the Berlin Wall. It was defined by a moment of Ronald Reagan. Let's show that in front of the Berlin Wall.
General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
So that was the Republican Party that I was drawn to, a party that believed in freedom and liberty and the moral obligation that the United States had to help others escape from tyranny. The same values, I think, that the greatest generation went to Europe, like my uncle who fought in Europe, was gravely wounded, never really recovered. My dad who fought in the South Pacific. That was what we believed. That it was in America was not just a place on the map with a flag, but that we stood for something bigger and bolder and the shining city on a hill. And what do we have today? Today we have, I think, one of the most disgraceful moment in American history. Take a look here. Donald Trump standing on a carpet that's red, it should be stained red by the blood of innocent Ukrainians, clapping for a war criminal, one of the mass murderer, a kidnapper of tens of thousands of children. He's welcoming this person to America, to our country, this draft dodger who never fought for anything but himself. It's really a profound, profound moment. And what it says most is about the Republican Party. And what else did we believe besides it was a party of strength? We believed, we said, in family values. And what are we now? We're the party that is actively cutting sweetheart deals with one of the more reprehensible, despicable, horrible child rapists and sex traffickers of modern times. That's the person who met with Donald Trump's personal criminal lawyer. Just think about it. Personal criminal lawyer a president has. Is it the Justice Department? I mean, I guess, Tony Soprano had a lawyer. Don Corleone had a lawyer. Walter White had a lawyer. So I guess, Donald Trump has his lawyer. And he goes down and he meets with this sex trafficker. And what comes out of it? Moved to a club fed where she can take yoga classes. It's absolutely despicable. And how many people in the Republican Party said anything? Nobody said anything. They just all went along. And here, let me show you a clip from my old friend and client, Roger Wicker, talking about Vladimir Putin.
is a war criminal. He needs to be in prison for the rest of his life. And there's no sense in treating him like he is that he's eligible to sit in the councils of Europe along with elected people who are subject to a vote of constituents every now and then. He is a war criminal.
That's Roger Wicker, Mississippi. Um, Known him a long time. We're both based in Washington. Um, Worked in his campaigns. And I don't have any question that Roger Wicker believes that from the bottom of his heart. He spent most of his career helping build alliances in Europe to make America stronger. He's now chairman of the Armed Services Committee. And the great tragedy here is that he is in a position of immense power if he chooses to exercise that power. He didn't have to confirm Pete Hegseth, this buffoonish drunk from the weekend Fox shows. And he could be standing up now and saying, no, Mr. President, Donald Trump, do not invite this monster to America. But what do we hear? Not much. And when you're silent and you go along, you become complicit. And that person's value becomes your values. And that's what's happened to the Republican Party. You know, I spent a lot of years of my life working against the Democratic Party, pointing out flaws in the Democratic Party. But it's the only pro-democracy party we have in America now. It's the only party that still believes in any kind of basic American values. What is the Republican Party now? It's the Republican Party of Putin and Maxwell. We used to argue and fight about how terrible it would be if there was a paramilitary force in America that would come after our guns and limit free speech. So what do we have now? We have a paramilitary force of masked men, the budget larger than the Marines. They're out there chasing gardeners in Brentwood and showing up at rallies, or political rallies where they don't oppose, like they don't support, the president doesn't support, like Newsom. I mean, has anybody in the Republican Party thought, like, right now you're having fun with this ICE? But isn't this the monster that you always said that you were afraid would happen? And when a Democrat becomes president, when Democrats control Washington, as they will, I think the odds are much greater that the next two elections will be a Democrat elected president than a Republican. What's going to stop them from turning these masked men into the nightmare that you always dreaded? Now, it won't happen because the Democratic Party still believes in some sense of what it means to be an American, some sense of decency and of honesty and rule of law. But when you look at what the Republicans are trying to do in Texas, you know, Donald Trump just picked up the phone and ordered up 5 more congressional seats, the same way he tried to get 11,000 more votes in Georgia. So what has the governor of California done? He's called a special election that could result in the redistricting of California. And what I think is being missed in this moment, we're talking about the importance of 5 seats, and it is important. But what hopefully this will signal is the Democratic Party understanding they cannot see themselves as a normal political party in a normal time. You can't. You're not the opposition party. You are the American party. And you have to fight the evil that the Republican Party has become. You know, there was a guy who was head of U.S. intelligence in World War I who famously said, "Gentlemen don't read other gentlemen's mail." That same person was Secretary of War, and as we used to call it, for Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War in World War II. And he sat in his office and he picked the cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that were to be bombed. Think about that evolution. You go from gentlemen don't read other gentlemen's mail to what cities are we going to obliterate in Japan? So what changed? I think what changed was a realization of the evil that was afoot in the world. And that changed what he thought and how he acted. And that's what the Democratic Party needs to do. They need to be a party that will act like they are in the majority, because even if they're not in the majority in Washington, it still is the majority of the country. If I ran the Democratic Party, God help us, I would wake up every day and I would chant, we're right, they're wrong. There's more of us than there are of them, because that's true. And somehow we're in this crazy, crazy moment where we have a lunatic of declining mental capabilities who's put Russian stooges, drunks, evil people like RFK Jr. across the government. And we're talking about what's wrong with the Democratic Party? Have we lost our minds? Yeah, Democrats, they lost an election. That happens. It happens a lot in politics. You don't wake up the next day and go, oh my God, everything we've done is wrong. We have this crisis. I mean, really, they're doing 200, I read they're doing 250 focus groups on what young men are interested in. I mean, what next? We're going to do like an in-depth study of why young men go to strip clubs? I think we know. I really don't have to do this. So the party needs to start acting like the confident party and walking with swagger. And that's what I like about what Newsom's doing. He's up there and he's saying, here I am. And what's happening with Newsom? Well, right now he's winning the nomination for the Democratic nomination for president, who chooses to win. Now that's just now and it'll change. But what I like about this moment is he's being rewarded. And in politics, ultimately, people tend to do what's in their best interest. And when other Democrats see what Newsom's doing and how he's being rewarded, hopefully they'll follow suit. Because this is only going to end if we end it. There's only one way to defeat the evil that is afoot in this country under the Republican Party and MAGA. The evil that welcomes a mass murderer, a war criminal, a man who has sent armies of rapists into Ukraine, welcoming on the red carpet on American soil. If that's not evil, I don't know what evil is. The party that now is helping a convicted sex trafficker get a sweetheart deal, which probably is leading to a pardon. I mean, clearly that's where this is headed. If that's not evil, I don't know what it is. So this isn't about policy differences. It's not about should the capital gains tax be 34 or 28%. It's about good versus evil. And that's the world you need to live in. And you need to start acting like it. And don't worry that it's going to seem condescending to these MAGA people. It doesn't matter. You are right. And one thing I know about campaigns is if campaigns don't believe in what they say, no one else will believe them. You have to assert it. And that's what the Democrats need to do. So we'll leave it at that. It's a sad day in American history. I think that there are better days to come. I've said this before, but I think November 24 was the high watermark of MAGA, the Pickett's charge of MAGA. I mean, think about it. 600,000 voters in Los Angeles who voted for Biden didn't show up to vote for Harris. You think if they had that election today, those 600,000 voters would sit on the couch? I don't think so. Not when they have so many neighbors and friends, relatives who are afraid to go outside because of masked men who we have no idea who these people are. We don't know if they're U.S. citizens. We don't know if they're criminals. We don't know if they're insurrectionists. We don't know if they have a history of spousal abuse. We don't know who they are. And they're out there kidnapping people, which is what it is. You think those same 600,000 would just sit at home and go, maybe this election doesn't matter? No. The Trump coalition was something that existed for a very brief moment, and it's crumbling. If he didn't send these armies of masked men out there, MAGA would revolt. Now he sent these armies of masked men, and I don't think that the Hispanic voters and others who went with Trump on the bubble are going to look at it and go, well, I'm fine with that. So I think next year should be a good year. I think the presidential race, but should be one that Democrats win. But Republicans are trying to do everything they can to cheat. They're not even pretending otherwise. And what do? It doesn't work to say, well, elections aren't going to matter, because you're going to have elections and you got to goddamn well make sure they matter. And the way you make sure they matter is to win by a lot, beyond the margin of error. And that's why here at Lincoln Square, we're doing what we do every day. That's why in the Lincoln Project, we're doing what we do every day. It's why probably a lot of you who are watching or donating to campaigns or talking to your neighbors or doing whatever you can to fight for the country we believe in. Because those are the stakes. It's never been greater. So let's go into the weekend. Let's remember what America is. And let's remind ourselves we're right, they're wrong. Thanks for joining.